Yeah.
Okay, so if we could just get nice and well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. So if we could just get comfortable in our chairs and just relax our bodies, relax our minds, make sure that the spine is nice and straight, and just take a couple of breaths and just breathe in relaxation and peace. And with the out breath, just let go of any stresses, any tensions in the body. And breathe in harmony. And breathe out any cares, any thoughts that you may have that you don't need right now. Just allow yourself to be present in your room, in the here and in the now, the only moment that is. And we'll just start with the Ari chant. So I'm just about to take a deep breath and I'll get us started. Okay, so if we could just now do the head and neck exercises. I won't go through all the directions. I think we know what they are. So if we could just do them in our own time and just remember not to try and strain or do them too quickly. And now the breathing exercises. So the first lot is 3 times in through the right nostril and out through the mouth. and then 3 times in through the left nostril and out through the right nostril. And now the first prayer of protection, the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Now an affirmation, a different one again. Be still and know that I am one with God. And then the second prayer of protection. As we open our hearts to the unseen forces that surround the throne of grace, beauty, and might, we throw about ourselves the protection found in the thought of the Christ. And if we could now just enter into the silence for around 8 to 10 minutes. Would you end your meditation now, please, and bring your awareness back to your room? Father, Mother God, we're grateful for this time spent in silent communion with Thee. And we ask that the energies that have been raised during our meditation may now go out as healing for anyone in need, to be used as Thou seest fit, but especially if they could go out to those who have no one to pray for them, that they may be used to surround them with love and light and your blessings. Amen. And we conclude the meditation with the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen.
Yeah, so the presentation I'm going to do today is Ideals and Affirmations, and it's from the book Meditation A Step Beyond with Edgar Cayce by M.E. Pennybaker. The introduction. So various things are achieved through the practice of meditation, such as physical well-being, peace of mind, self-knowledge, as well as other things which are dependent upon the individual meditating. However, the primary purpose of meditation should remain the same for everyone: selfless development to the Christ consciousness within. The ideals. In attempting to open the door through which all peace comes, it becomes necessary to determine exactly what the spiritual, mental, and physical ideals are. So this reading here: first find deep within self that purpose, that ideal to which you would attain. Make that ideal one with thy purpose in him. Know that within thine own body, thine own temple, he, thy Lord, thy Master, has promised to meet thee. Then as you turn within, meditate upon those promises from body, mind, so that there arises that consciousness of the at one-ment with him. And there may come those directions by that constant communion with him. So use this, practice this in thy daily dealings with thy fellow man, not as one that would make himself above his brothers, but even as the Master who made himself one with his brethren, that he might save the more. So as one studies that which is given to him to know, he gradually becomes more aware of the spiritual, mental, and material ideals. So when the ideals have clarified themselves in the mind, do not just continue to think about them, but write them on paper. So do not then merely have a verbal or vocal ideal. Do write what is thy ideal. Begin with that under these three headings: spiritual, mental, and material or physical. The following is an example of that used by the Association for Research and Enlightenment. So this could be in the 1970s. So spiritual, thy spiritual concept of the ideal, whether it be Jesus, Buddha, mind, material, God, or whatever is the word which indicates the self, the ideal, spiritual. And the mental, write the ideal mental attitude, as may arise from concepts of the spiritual in relationship to self, to home, to friends, to neighbors, to thy enemies, to things, to conditions. And the material or physical, so the ideal material, not of conditions, but what does bring into manifestation the spiritual and mental ideals. What relationships does such bring to things, to individuals, to situations? Then set about to apply the knowledge you have attained. It's the application of same that counts. And write what is thine own ideal. These may change from time to time, for each soul grows in grace, in knowledge, in understanding. Just as the awareness, the unfoldments come to the self as the entity applies that it has chosen and does choose from day to day. So as one uses the inner knowledge which has been made known to him, he changes and begins to grow in spiritual awareness. So as the changes and developments take place, one may very well see that the ideals will also change. So as the changes are noted, do not hesitate to change the ideals accordingly. So as one grows, there will be a tendency for the ideals no longer to be self-centered, but they will begin to project out to one's fellow man. It is here that one may see the Christ spirit manifested from day to day. One will begin to consciously notice that changes are taking place in every fiber of one's being. The door has been knocked upon, and as he promised, it has been opened. Perhaps only a bit at first, but now the certain knowledge is there that it can be opened wide, and the white light will begin to envelop one with his love and understanding. So, affirmations. So with the stilling of the mind and body, one begins to separate oneself from worldly things for the period of time chosen to meditate. The stilling of the physical body is relatively simple as compared to the stilling of the mind or mental body. It is a natural experience for the mind to skip from thought to thought, very often bringing to the surface things which one might have believed buried and gone forever. Focusing on a spiritual affirmation can be of tremendous help in quieting the mind and curbing its wanderings. So each time it is consciously realized that the mind has sidetracked itself and gone off on its own merry way, we'll gently bring it back to the affirmation. It is with care that the affirmation is selected. For he stands ever at the door of thy conscience. He stands ever as a lamp to thy feet, as a light to the pathway, and unless ye shatter same by the greater material desire, he will lead the way. So a spiritual affirmation is a building block for the individual, using it and contributes to the growth toward that which is being affirmed. As in the selection of aids which will help an individual to enter into meditation, the same individuality applies in the selection of an affirmation. So each soul, each entity should of its own volition and desire perfect that approach which to self answers that need within. No one may tell another how to fall in love or how to bear up another under same in meeting desire in self. Neither may one tell another that which answers to that awareness within. So the affirmation tends to help set the spiritual vibrations in motion. And for each individual, these are different, just as the ideals are different for each one. So as the spiritual centers begin to open, the affirmation also acts as an aid in preventing contact with undesired influences. Then, as you open thy meditation, first surround self with the thought or affirmation, the prayer, the desires that Jesus and his promises guide thee in thy seeking. Then ye have set yourself aright. Then again, as you raise thy power of vibratory forces through the body, you give thyself in body, in mind, in purpose, in desire, into the hands, into the keeping of his purposes with thee. So to enter into the silence, the mind must be lifted to a higher level of thinking than it usually attains while working with things of a material nature. The affirmations not only accomplish this, but they also help to trigger the memory pattern of the soul body, thereby opening the path to the divine within. There are a number of excellent affirmations, including favorite Bible verses or Psalms. So the following is a selection of spiritual affirmations from the Edgar Cayce readings. Not my way, Lord, have thine own way with me, that I may ever in this experience of every nature, of every kind, be as a channel of blessings to those I contact day by day, in every way, in every manner. I am thine, Lord, in the love thou hast shown through the Christ. Bring to this body of mine that thou seest, that thou knowest is best, that I may be the more perfect manifestation of thy love among the children of men. May the desire of my heart be such that I may become more and more aware of the Spirit of the Father through the Christ manifesting in me. Let the knowledge of the Lord so permeate my being that there is less and less of self, more and more of God in my dealings with my fellow man, that the Christ may be in all, through all, in his name. The light of protection. As the spiritual affirmation begins to take form in the mind, Visualize the physical body as it sits in its meditative position. Then mentally surround the body with a white light of protection. Possession by underside influences is a very real thing, and the white light is protective in its nature. The light of protection, which mentally surrounds one during meditation, is not to be confused with the symbolic white light of the Christ consciousness. However, visualizing the body surrounded by the protective light is tantamount to the protection of the Master. So, in opening self, as should every soul, for the body is the temple of the soul, the temple of the Spirit of the Father, surround self with that which is ever present with the Father, and he is faithful, for he has given. As ye seek me, as you ask in my name, that will be thine. For as I go to the Father, and ye abide in me, and I in the Father, the deeds that you do in the body may be manifesting and be examples of the love of the Father to the sons of men. The white light. So the white light is symbolic of the Christ consciousness within, but to avoid confusion between the light of protection and the white light of meditation, excuse me, it would seem that a few more words are in order. So the white light, which is seen and felt in meditation, cannot be fully visualized, nor can it be satisfactorily described to another. The white light is intangible, and yet there is an awareness of solidity about it at the same time. And strangely, the desire to speak about it to others is very often absent. It is written in Isaiah chapter 60, verse 19, "The sun shall be no more thy light by day, neither for brightness shall the moon give light unto thee. But the Lord shall be unto thee an everlasting light, and thy God thy glory." Thus it is with the white light of meditation and prayer. As preparation is made to enter silence, one prays, and one always prays for himself before praying for others. This may seem to be an act of selfishness, but it really isn't. Self-prayer is helpful in raising the spiritual vibrations of the body. It also helps to awaken the consciousness and, in turn, gives added power when praying and acting as a channel of blessings for others. Praying is part of the attuning of the spiritual, mental, and physical bodies. So attune yourself almost in the same manner as you tune the violin for harmony. For when the body mind and the soul mind is attuned to the infinite, there will be brought harmony to the mind, and those centers from which impulses arises will aid in the directing of the individual entity to become more sensitive, and the material things about the entity may be the better enjoyed. There will not be brought just what we might call satisfaction. The body, mind, and soul are all tied together by the miracle of birth, but there are times when the three bodies appear to separate, each seemingly bent on going in a different direction. But by the practice of meditation and focusing on the things of a spiritual nature, these three bodies can be brought back into harmony, with each one performing the functions intended for it by its creator. Then use it, not in a boastful manner, but let it make thee humble, even as he, though not other than he, who thought it not robbery to make himself equal with God. But know that it is not by self, but as the Spirit moves in thee, through thy attuning of thy body, thy mind, thy soul, to that consciousness. And that ends the presentation of ideals and affirmations. Thank you.
There's a lot in that.
Hmm?
There is a lot in that. And I found it interesting about the bit at the end there about praying for self and before you pray for others.
Hmm.
because in the prayer group, we always pray for the prayer group and each other before we pray for all the other names on the prayer list.
Mm.
Right.
Maybe, yeah, to help yourself ready for helping others. You know, if you're not healthy and well, you can't help others.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. And maybe to help no temptations and negative thoughts and things like that.
Yep.
To clear
There
this.
are ways around.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons I like the chanting, because that also curbs the mind from wandering.
Okay.
Very helpful to go back to chanting.
Mm.
Which is good, yeah. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
And this white light sounds very interesting. Solid white light in your mind. Very good.
Yeah.
I'm looking for that one one day.
Well, that's the thing. Maybe we are the light. We are made of light.
I think we are.
That's
Totally. Yeah.
That's our true form.
Absolutely, we are.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. It's all very Star Trek, this whole thing.
Yeah. Almost alien.
Yeah, totally. And it's so mental, right? Everything we do is very, very mental. It's like as earthly beings. It's our mind that is such a strong influence. I think that's
we don't realize how powerful our minds are, what it can do.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, because the imagination, the readings say imagination is even more powerful than our will.
Yeah. Yes, I get that one for sure. Everyone says that about, losing weight or quitting smoking or recovering from illness, just everything. Your imagination is a stronger force than your willpower. There you go. Okay, so the 7 spiritual centers from the book Meditation, A Step Beyond with Edgar Cayce by M.E. Penny Baker. Introduction. The glands represent the 7 spiritual centers of the body. The glands are also involved in the spiritual awakening and the physical well-being of an individual. The 7 centers which have become dormant through non-usage will awaken in meditation. Within the body, there are channels, there are ducts, there are glands, there are activities that perform no one knows what in a living, moving, thinking being. In many individuals, such have become dormant. Many have become atrophied. Why? Non-usage, non-activity. Because only the desires of the appetite, self-indulgences and such have so glossed over or used up the abilities in these directions that they become only wastes, as it were, in the spiritual life of an individual who has abused or misused those abilities that have been given to him for the greater use. The 7 spiritual centers are involved in both good and evil. In meditation, the power is raised and it is up to each individual what it will be used for. The 7 centers act as influences on each and every part of the living man. We must understand the part that the 7 centers have in the cleansing of the mind and other parts of the physical body as the energy is raised during meditation. There has long been sought by a few the interpretation of the seven centers, and many have, in various stages of awareness or development, placed the association or connection between physical, mental, and spiritual in varied portions of the body. In analysing the seven centers as given through the revelation by John, they are active in the various influences that are a part of each living organism conceived in the forces making up that known as man. That power able to conceive in the mind of God and to demonstrate same in relationships to others. That in mind able to conceive of manners for the destruction of its fellow man, little realizing that it is self being destroyed by that very activity. Kundalini. In meditation, it is through the seven spiritual centers that the Kundalini flow of energy is awakened. The Kundalini is a flow of energy which rises upward from the lowest gland, the gonads, to the pineal, and then spills over into the pituitary, the master gland. Kundalini is the Sanskrit word for life or creative energy. The Kundalini must be brought into movement before one may hope to reach the Christ consciousness within. Visualize this tremendous flow of energy, Kundalini, as it moves upward through the body from the gonads to the pineal, thence spilling over into the pituitary as the crook in the staff. As one mentally sees the energy rising, he can see the pituitary as the cup that overfloweth. Thus it is that we can understand, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. The Kundalini remains with us and does not change. Question was asked, what is the condition of the Kundalini now? The answer, this depends upon how and in what manner the body attempts to raise same during its meditation. This doesn't change, for it is the seat or the source of life-giving forces in the body. The effect upon the body depends upon the use to indicated as the body itself. Energy can be used for destructive purposes as well as individual. Great Kundalini meditation without spiritualizing the mental body, one cannot hope to derive benefits from potential and make preparation, especially the breathing exercises. Without preparation, desires of every nature may become so accentuated for exercise as to bring detrimental forces, unless the desire and purpose is acknowledged and in the influence of self as to its direction. When loosened by the Kundalini activities through the body, this opening of the centers or the raising of the life force may be brought about by certain characters of breathing. For, as indicated, the breath is power in itself. The following is a reading on what to do when the Kundalini begins to flow through the body. Question, please give advice that would help in those times when there is the beginning of Kundalini to rise, or there is the circulation of Kundalini through the body. What should be the next step? Answer, surround self with that consciousness of the Christ Spirit. This by the affirmation of, let self be surrounded with the Christ consciousness, and the directions be through those activities in the body force itself. Do not seek the lower influences, but the Christ consciousness. It is in the memory cells of the spiritual centers that one will find the resting place of karma, good or bad, the talents, the abilities, the weaknesses, as well as the strengths. It is in the spiritual centers that the soul memory impresses and records those aspects of karma which can become active and affect the current activity of individuals. Thus, one can see how it is that as the creative energy moves upwards during meditation, memory patterns of long buried activities may be reawakened. It is understandable why it is necessary that one use a spiritual affirmation before entering into meditation. One of the reasons for the affirmation is that one will wish to spiritualize the mind and reawaken things of a spiritual nature. There is then in the system that activity of the soul that is the gift of the Creator to man. It may be easily seen then how very closely the glands are associated with reproduction, degeneration, regeneration, and this throughout, not only the physical forces of the body, but the mental body and the soul body. The glandular forces then are ever akin to the sources from which, through which, the soul dwells within the body. The 7 spiritual centers. 1, the gonads. The gonads secrete certain hormones which are important not only to vitality, but to the spiritual, mental, and emotional health of an individual. In all probability, it is a minute bit of energy from one of the hormones which is accelerated, thereby starting the upward rise of the Kundalini during meditation, since the gonads are the power point of the body. The gonads is the first of the centers from which arises all that is movement, to bring into being both the face and the preface, or the back or the reverse in the experience. It carries with it what? That mind. For remember, ever the pattern is ever the same, mind the builder. Conceived then, the first movement is along that center or gland, which either fades or becomes a channel along which there may move the power and might to find expression through the very activities of the organs of the body itself. 2, the cells of Leydig or Leiden. In the physical body, there are those influences, Kundalini force, then, through which each of these phases of an entity may or does become an active influence. There may be brought about an awareness of this Kundalini force by the exercising of the mind through the manner of directing the breathing. For in the body, there is that center in which the soul is expressive and creative in its nature, the Leydig center. By this breathing, this Kundalini force may be made to expand as it moves along the path that is taken in its first inception at conception and opens the 7 centers of the body that radiate or are active upon the organisms of the body. As this life force, Kundalini, is expanded, it moves first from the Leydig center through the adrenals in what may be termed an upward trend to the pineal and to the centers in control of the emotions or reflexes through the nerve forces of the body. Thus, an entity puts itself through such an activity into association or in conjunction with all it has ever been or may be, for it loosens the physical consciousness to the universal consciousness. There is a possibility that this particular center is involved in the poltergeist phenomena, which have been known to occur around certain individuals as they reach the age of puberty. The poltergeist phenomena are of a psychic nature and may be triggered by the opening of this center. Also, there is a good possibility that the cells of Leydig relate to the male and female balance in individuals. What takes place in the developing body or in life growth may be different from that which takes place as one attempts to meditate and to distribute the life force, Kundalini, in order to aid another, or to control the influence as in healing, or to attain to an attunement in self for a deeper and better understanding. 3, the adrenals. The Kundalini continues its upward traveling from the Leydig center to the adrenal glands. The adrenals are the very essence of life itself. The adrenals is also responsible for prodigious feats of strength. On the positive side, at the adrenal level, there is the energy flow having to do with vigor, persistence, and the power to keep driving. Also, courage. These are actually all different qualities in an individual, but they are all related to the secretions of these particular endocrine glands. Through the negative aspects of the same glands, one will find the arousing of anger, hate, and fear. It is in the cell mind of the adrenals that the karmic patterns are carried over from lifetime to lifetime. In meditation, the adrenal centers are opened, and this could very well be the point where individuals are made aware of things which could prove to be stumbling blocks or stepping stones as one moves along the path to the Christ consciousness. It is also interesting to note that many psychic phenomena of different kinds are associated with the adrenal glands. The adrenal glands are related to the solar plexus center, the great sun center of the body. Also, these glands are one of the hard-working vitality centers of the physical body. The thymus. From the adrenals, the Kundalini flow of energy continues its upward wending to the thymus gland, which is seated above the heart. The thymus gland is the seat of personality that uses self. It is also the seat of love of self and others. The influence of the thymus gland can work for good or bad in an individual. It represents the evolving principle in man. The 4 lower glands in the physical body, gonads, cells of Leydig, adrenals, and the thymus, represent the physical side of man's nature. This is the side of man that one must strive to overcome in his desire to commune with the Christ consciousness within. The 3 upper spiritual centers are the thyroid, the pineal at the top and back of the brain, and the pituitary, which hangs at the very front center of the brain. 5, the thyroid. As the flow of energy continues upward from the lower centers, it encounters the thyroid glands, the first of the 3 upper spiritual centers. Metaphysically, or beyond the physical or material, the thyroid centers have charge of the spoken voice. It is from this point that the spoken prayers go forth. The spiritual centers in the throat area, thyroid, also seem to be closely related to the gift of clairvoyance, or the ability of an individual to know the future before it happens. The thyroid glands relate to the will and the driving power to make up one's mind or the ability to choose one way or the other. Then within each of the organs themselves, though they each are in the main glands, the functioning is stimulated by the activity of each organ's ability to assimilate that needed from the environs, as well as from that upon which it is fed, to grow into that direction given by the mental purpose, the mental desire of the personality, as it, as an individual, makes itself manifest in a material environment. 6, the pineal. Then the next is the pineal, through which the brain forces make manifest. It is through the pineal gland that the brain forces or desires are made known. The pineal should be thought of as the very seat of soul memory. When the pineal is opened in meditation, it can recall to memory all that the soul has been since it was created. It may also bring to memory one's spiritual name. Perhaps this is related to the white stone described in Revelation 2:17. And I will give him a white stone, and in that stone a name written, which no man knoweth save him that receiveth it. The pineal is considered the seat of the mind and is of the Christ consciousness within and without. Number 7, the pituitary. From the pineal, the Kundalini energy spills over into the pituitary gland, the master spiritual center, the cup that overfloweth. The pituitary is extremely sensitive to vibrations of all kinds. The pituitary is also the healing center of the body. Through the pituitary, we express the universal love. It is that part of the spiritual body which is referred to as the third eye. It is in the pituitary that one becomes aware of the Christ consciousness. Question: how may I bring into activity my pineal and pituitary glands, as well as the Kundalini and other chakras, that I may attain to higher mental and spiritual powers? Answer: first, so fill the mind with the ideal that it may vibrate through the whole of the mental being. Then close the desires of the fleshly self to conditions about same. Meditate upon thy will with me. Feel same. Fill all the centers of the body, from the lowest to the highest, with that ideal. Opening the centers by surrounding self first with that consciousness: not my will, but thine, O Lord, be done in and through me. And then have that desire, that purpose, not of attaining without his direction, but with his direction, who is the maker, the giver of life and light, as it is indeed in him that we live and move and have our being. We can choose to express through the glands and open the 7 spiritual centers, or we can choose to leave them closed and just be physical. We are always making the choice, consciously or unconsciously. In the rising of the energy from center to center, it may be felt as a quickening or a great rapidity within the body. There will be times when one is not aware that the energy is rising until it culminates in the pituitary, and then the white light suddenly breaks forth in all of its glory. Do not become discouraged if upon meditating day after day nothing happens. It does take patience, Remember, as has so oft been indicated, it is as we use that in hand that the greater opportunities are given. It is in perseverance and not giving up that the consciousness begins to develop on a higher plane and meditation becomes that which you sought. The raising of the mental consciousness to the various spheres of attunement is accomplished only in concentration and in attuning self to those forces as are without. As one develops, or as one opens self in those various spheres of understanding, one attains or gains an access, a vision, an insight, a hearing, a feeling into those various planes. By the use of that in hand, does one attain the next plane. The preparation for tomorrow is builded upon today. In the opening of the 7 spiritual centers, each individual will have a different experiences. Each individual's experience in the application of that gained by each in his or her experience will be different. To give an interpretation that the meaning or activity through a center raises or means or applies this or that, then would become rote. For no, in all and through all, the activity of self is only as a channel, and God giveth the understanding the increase to such, and in the manner as is best fitted for the individual. Conclusion. In the centers are stored all of the blocks, all of the fears, as well as all of the power, talents, and abilities waiting to be tapped. In meditation, one seeks the ability to cope with the mental and physical strain that each imposes upon himself. With the awakening to the Christ consciousness within, one learns to live with himself and others. Jesus, the Christ, said that the kingdom of God is within. Therefore, in turning within during meditation, one finds the key to open the door from whence comes all well-being for the physical, the mental, the soul. And that is the end of the conclusion. The end of the presentation, the 7 spiritual centers. Yeah, that was interesting. Do you think we found something different in that one compared to the other? Because we've done the glands a couple of times, but that was
yeah, I think each of the books give a different sort of explanation and way of. So this book is more Christ focused because I notice it has a very Christ-based sort of focus. And yeah, it ties in with the Bible and the book of Revelation.
Speaking of which, that was interesting, wasn't it? The white stone and the name that is only known to the soul.
Yeah.
That was interesting. I think, Russell, your question about your Russell Bowey in this life and the one who was in the previous life had a different name. But I think the soul itself has one name virtually that is carried on through each life. So I think that's a very interesting concept. And quite often the names are resonant of the other one. So, for example, it could be Russell in this life, but it might be a similar sort of name, maybe Robert or another sort of a similar sounding even. I've heard of people having that experience. The name can be, like I could be Elizabeth this time, but another time I might have been Elspeth, or similar but different names depending on the society in which you were born. Sometimes they have a very similar sound.
Okay. Edgar Cayce's 7 Steps to Revelation, presented by Russell Bowey. Puryear's 7-step revelation process. I presume that's Herbert Puryear, or maybe it's Meredith Ann Puryear. Number 1, self-evaluation. 2, opening of the centres. 3, personal purification. 4, establishment of the higher self as the ideal. 5, meeting the karmic memory of the 7 centres. 6, overthrowing the dominion of the lower self. And 7, ascendancy of the new higher self. Introduction. The revelation portrays a sequential process that corresponds to the awakening of the higher self, depicts the internal struggles that occur within each individual as spiritual development takes place and the basic lower nature of humankind evolves to its higher spiritual nature, and is essentially a handbook for the sequential evolution of human consciousness as individuals reawaken to their connection to the divine. Step 1, self-evaluation. Seek to know what self is lacking, even as given in the first 4 chapters. There is a need for all individuals to take a personal assessment of the self's qualities and faults related to each of these motivational centers or chakras. During the process of meditation, the energy of attunement, the Kundalini, begins to rise through the 7 spiritual centers, the gonads, cells of Leydig, adrenals, thymus, thyroid, pineal, and pituitary. To him that overcometh will I grant to sit with me in my throne, from Revelation 3:21. The 4 lower centers relate to earthly desires: self-sustenance, the gonads; self-propagation, the cells of Leydig; self-preservation, the adrenals; and self-gratification, the thymus. These 4 earthly desires and the 5 senses must become subservient to the higher forces. Then we move on to step 2. Step 2, opening of the 7 centers. Do not attempt to open any of the centers of the book until self has been tried in the balance of self's own conscious relationship to the creative forces and not found wanting. No one should attempt to open these centers without the awareness of the spirit of the universal Christ consciousness. The slain lamb symbol represents the universal Christ consciousness, has sacrificed both its awareness and its desires in preference for the divine. Opening of the 7 seals means the hormones are secreted from each gland within the body as messengers, or are physical forces that ride forth to their expression. What you are trying to achieve is to spiritualize the 144,000 sealed cells in the body to influence the rest of the body. These higher vibrations influence the rest of the body. A new pattern of the higher self, or the spiritual ideal, is now established. We have sealed the servants of our God in our foreheads. Revelation 7:3. The 12 tribes, part of the body, should now be spiritualized, and we move on to step 3. Step 3, personal purification. Purified and conquered and used for the development and the oneness of the individual's purposes and desires. Step 3 is a continuation of the attunement process, which will eventually lead us to self-purification. The sounding of the 7 trumpets are the body's experiences during physical purification after the opening of the 7 seals. The 2 witnesses are our memories of our past earthly lives and mental energies from our soul's planetary sojourns that we carry with us everywhere. Once we are purified, the temple of God opens up and allows us to face communion with the divine. The consciousness of the self becomes attuned to the superconsciousness of the divine. Enlightenment is attained at this level. Step 4, higher self as the ideal. Whosoever will may take of the water of life. There is no limit to God's love. Anyone can achieve at-one-ment with God. In step 4, we deal with the 7 combined forces. 1, a woman clothed with the sun, from Revelation 12:1. All of our experiences in the earth and materiality that have brought us to this point of time. 2, a child travailing in birth, Revelation 12:2, birth of a spiritual ideal. Number 3, a great red dragon from 12:3, rebellious forces within self that would attempt to destroy our higher ideal. Number 4, Michael the Archangel from 12:7, spiritual forces that would assist, guide and protect the individual on their path toward enlightenment. War between Michael and the red dragon symbolizes the conflict between the spiritual ideal and the material and selfish concerns that have become part of the individual's consciousness. Number 5, a beast rising out of the sea from 13:1. The cells of Leydig and the individual's motivation of self-propagation rising up in rebellion. Number 6, a beast coming out of the earth from 13:11. The gonad center and the individual's motivation for self-sustenance, feeling threatened by the establishment of a higher spiritual ideal. And number 7, a lamb with 144,000 faithful from 14:1. Continual attunement and adherence to the spiritual ideal. Beware of being the false prophet. At this level, we may manifest spiritual gifts such as healing and psychic ability, even miracles, but still remain spiritually immature, that is not in full accord with the living spirit. We have to be careful not to put our will and desires above that of the will of God, that is, lacking the consciousness of God. It is only by putting oneself in accord with the mind of the universal Christ consciousness that we can proceed to the next level of attunement. We must not rest, but be in active service for the benefit of the rest of mankind. We have reached a higher level of purification and transformation, but we are not yet an initiate. Step 5, meeting the karmic memory of the 7 centers. No man was able to enter into the temple till the 7 plagues of the 7 angels was fulfilled, from Revelation 15:8. In step 5, we are dealing with our karmic patterns and memories of each of the 7 centers, represented in the Revelation as the 7 final plagues. As these memory patterns are poured out upon the earth, brought to the awareness of the individual, they must be healed, purified, or transformed, fulfilling of every jot and tittle. Matthew 5:18, fulfilling of the law. The Battle of Armageddon is the conflict between our spiritual nature and our material urges that we have acquired on earth. The temple of the tabernacle of the testimony in heaven, Revelation 15:5, is the book of life, or the Akashic records, which contains the record of the soul's past being revealed to the individual. The completion of meeting our karma is accomplished at the level of spirit with the help of Christ. He alone is each soul pattern. He alone is each soul pattern. He is thy karma if you put thy trust wholly in him. Jesus provided a pattern of behaviour for every soul. Once the karmic patterns are cleansed, we come to the next step, which is the judgment of Babylon, knowing the lower self for what it is and overthrowing it. Step 6, overthrowing the dominion of the lower self. And the fruits that thy soul lusted after are departed from thee. Revelation 18:11. The awareness within each soul imprinted in pattern on the mind and waiting to be awakened by the will of the soul's oneness with God. Step 6 is the final purification process, and our lower self will be brought under control and become subservient to our higher self. The city of Babylon and the woman of Babylon symbolizes our lower self. The bride and the new Jerusalem symbolizes the purified higher self. The lower self shall be overcome by the Lamb, the universal Christ consciousness. The challenge is not whether the lower self exists, but instead how long the individual allows it to reign supreme. After the lower self has been put aside, the 4 beasts and the 24 elders bow down, becoming subservient so that the revelation attunement can continue in Revelation 19:4. At this level, there will be the marriage of the bride, our consciousness being so raised as to become as a new being, and the Lamb. Also, this level of attainment, the white horse, Christ, is now the messenger of attunement, and the spirit of the universal Christ consciousness or ideal pervades our entire body. Be ye all determined within thy minds, thy hearts, thy purposes, to be of that number. Step 7, ascendancy of the new higher self. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away. Revelation 21:1. Pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, Revelation 22:1, is the active flow of the purpose of the souls of men made pure in same. He that overcometh shall inherit all things, and I will be his God, and he shall be my son. Revelation 21:7. The personal revelation process has been completed. The higher self has become the dominant influence, and the individual has become transformed. The city of Jerusalem is the holy place, the holy city, and is a symbol for the higher self and the soul's higher purposes and experiences. We are no longer seeking for self, but instead we become an integral part of the activities of the divine. At this level, we have divine understanding and purpose, also wisdom and enlightenment. At this level of awareness, we will no longer be susceptible to the dominion of the lower self. There will come a time when everything that exists will be in continuous attunement with the universal Christ ideal, the Lamb. Conclusion. They are not of the world, even as I am not of the world, that they all may be one, as thou, Father, art in me, and I in thee, that they also may be one in us, that the world may believe that thou hast sent me. And the glory which thou gavest me, I have given them, that they may be one, even as we are one. John 17:16 and 21:22. This spiritual transformation is our soul's birthright. We are spiritual beings having a physical experience. Our divine will becomes manifest. Our divine will becomes manifest. This revelation of self exists as a potential within all of us. Any sincere study of the revelation will result in the individual becoming more meek, more patient, more humble, and more in accord with the fruits of the Spirit. Through the symbolic exploration of archetypal images, patterns, and processes, John's visionary experience portrays the means through which each individual can awaken to a higher state of consciousness, and the pattern of wholeness exists as a potential within the self. The revelation is the ultimate manual for self-discovery. Well done, we have completed all the steps, setting aside the lower self, personal evaluation and purification, establishing a spiritual ideal, facing everything within us that is out of accord with the workings of the spirit. The nature of the soul can become manifest in the earth. The revelation of John is the revelation of how each and every individual can attain to an awareness of the universal Christ consciousness while in the earth. Final note and credit. This summary was taken from part 3 of the book Edgar Cayce on Soul Symbolism by Kevin Tedeschi, which is based on the work of Herbert Puryear at the ARE in the 1980s. And that concludes the presentation.
Well done, Russell.
Well,
I really enjoyed it. It made it really good.
it's interesting watching it as other people read it.
Mm.
You can feel different things, but when you're reading it yourself,
Mm.
there's a real power to it. It really affects you as you're reading it out loud. If I was just reading it silently, it would be different. But reading it out loud it's powerful.
It's like maybe the truth's hitting you, you know,
It's
inside
the vibrations. It's the vibrations
Of
into
the voice.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And it's the truths. Maybe, you know, thinking maybe this is true. This what I'm saying is true, but what I'm reading, it may be true, and it makes sense, or hit you, you know, inside spiritually.
We have booklets, small booklets that we have translated into Swedish.
Oh,
And
your
I've started. Yeah,
is your microphone?
sorry. Yeah.
Well, that's
Sorry. I forget it. And I've started rereading them once again, and I read it loud to myself. And that's a huge difference, as you said, Russell, if you're reading it silently for yourself. But it feels like the vibration is more stronger if you read it loud to yourself.
Yeah.
And
I certainly noticed that. Yeah.
And also the single-mindedness, when you're reading out loud, you have to focus every word. You kind of have to stay very focused all the way. But when you're listening, you don't. Your mind can wander a little bit too.
Yes, and you are using your whole body to get those words into yourself. You are looking at the words, and you are hearing the words, and you are you're pronouncing them and sounding them, and that gives the whole picture of it. It goes into your body.
It's
really,
very powerful.
really deep. Yeah, very, very powerful.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Keith, for putting that together.
Well, thank you, Russell, because I was surprised that you offered to do it, and I was like, oh, what is going to be like? But it'll be interesting to find out. And it was so beautiful. Like I was just like, it just flowed, you know, right throughout. I was so happy that you did. It makes a difference. But I think
I won't be here next week.
you have to watch the YouTube video then.
Yeah.
I was just saying, I wanted to say that because of that part here because we've been doing all the rest of the meditation presentation like that sort of accumulates to that, sort of leads to that revelation and makes sense
Yeah.
after going through all the previous, all the other presentations and going through it, and this builds towards this, to the book of Revelation, and then it makes sense. It starts to connect. Everything seems to connect.
I'd like to learn more about the revelations. I hope that comes up exactly what we saw then. I want to hear more and different and a bit more on that one to get more of an understanding. That was good, but I feel like that is like an outline or a skeleton of the story.
Yeah, and
I think we need more detail in a way, but that's very positive. It's a very positive outcome, isn't it? Kind of the promise is that the higher self will have ascendancy. When all for everyone.
Yep.
It's a goal. Yeah.
There's a lot of cleaning up to be done.
There's two books which I'm going to share, and I just want to show you very similar. So I'm just going to share my screen and show you. Share my screen. Yeah. Is that working?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to show you these two books, The Revelation of St. John, very similar to that outline as well. And I think this is a path, the path to soul initiation, very similar to Edgar Cayce's style as well. And it follows the same pattern, very similar. And I think it was influenced by Edgar Cayce's Revelation.
Okay.
I'm going to send this out.
Okay.
And this is, I think this is what's the other organization, the spiritual group that's similar to Edgar Cayce, Theosophy. Yeah, I think this is Theosophy's. So I'll send out this book. So if you look at the outline, everything's very similar as well to that, to the contents, like union with the soul, death and resurrection, then spiritual transformation, elimination of the ego or the lower self. Yeah, so it's very similar. So I'll send this book out and you can have a quick look through it. And there's another one very similar as well, the Book of Revelation, New Metaphysical Version, manual describing the unfoldment of our Christ nature, by Reverend Bill Holt. So this is sort of metaphysical, and it's also influenced by Edgar Cayce. So these are the two books that I'll share. So to truth seekers and spiritual practitioners all over the world who want to be constantly energetic and faithfully align their human self with their Christ self. So very similar. I'll just quickly show you the contents. Yeah, so chapter 2 and 3 are the chakras, so the 7 chakras. And then it goes, yeah. So I'll send this out anyway.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that's all.
And of course, there's that other book by
John Van Auken's.
Hawken. I used to have it sitting here on my desk. But
Yeah. So I can send you a copy of that one. The PDF.
he used a lot of Shane Miller's paintings in his book.
Oh, good.
Hawken did.
So yeah, so hopefully all this talk that we've had about meditation will make us understand the book of Revelation and appreciate it more.
But that's a big ask, I think.
No.
But it helps, because the New York group spent years studying the book of the Revelation. And they were the ones that put together that handbook back in the 1960s, which compared their understanding of it to what Cayce had to say about it to the actual reading, the actual words of the Revelation itself. And that Shane Miller was in that group, and he was the one that then painted a whole lot of the images out of it.
But to my mind, I mean, we were probably prophets and priests and all that in the past. You know, we had some work, part of the work, so we understood it. And we still understand it now. It's just reawakening it ourselves.
Yeah, well, it certainly makes sense,
Hmm.
the symbology within it.
Is that 144,000? That sounds like the number of souls that go to heaven, according to some of those sects, doesn't it? Like the Mormons or the one of the other ones like that.
Well, according to it's the cells or the cells within the body, 12,000 from each tribe. So the 12 tribes or 12 parts of our body, and they're all spiritualized. And that makes up the 144,000 when it goes to a higher vibration, and then something happens. And it's all part of the meditation process.
Yeah.
But if only 144,000 go to heaven, what happens to the rest of us?
The billion, we have a party.
Burning in hell, I think.
Oh, okay.
Barbecue party. Barbecue
Barbecue.
party.
Barbecue.
Well, I think the universe is big enough for all of us.
Yeah, and well, heaven isn't a place; it's a state of consciousness, and heaven is what we make of it.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I've been watching some YouTube videos of all the luxury resorts and how that's like a paradise on earth to my mind. We can make it a paradise. Then you look at all the bad things happening in other areas and go, oh, that's scary. I wouldn't want to go there. It's too dangerous.
Yeah, like New Caledonia and places like that.
And it starts up in very different places on Earth at the moment. Those
Dangerous.
scary things, and you don't know where it's going to start.
Yeah.
Well, someone in our other study group shared that things are not getting worse; they're getting revealed. And I thought that's very interesting to say that. It's just we're now seeing more of things that before were covered up or swept under the carpet or we didn't know about. Now we're hearing more about it. So things aren't getting worse. We're just actually hearing about them now. They're being revealed.
Yeah.
You can't hide it anymore.
That's it.
No, it's coming up to the surface.
Yeah.
It's a sort of a cleansing, I suppose. I don't know. Maybe it is.
Yeah.
It might be.
Well,
Yeah, could be.
Mm.
Because you can't clean stuff you don't know about.
No.
You know?
No. Yeah.
It has to be known before people can object to something too. To say that's not good, that's not right. You have to know about it in order to be able to say that's no good. We need to get that stopped or whatever. Yeah. Yeah. Well, another a very revealing episode of our podcast tonight. It was very good.
An unmissable episode.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
People will be binge watching this.
Yeah. That's good. Thank you, Keith. You must spend a lot of time preparing each one of these ones. Yeah. It's good.
Well, it's built over time, a long time.
Okay.
It's just, and I think I just focus on the Edgar Cayce 100%, all the books and everything. So that's my focus.
Yeah.
So that's how it all. So it's easy.
Yeah. No, it's great.
Yeah.
The more you read, the more you get an idea, which I love that. If you read a lot of ones, then you start to get a stronger sense of confidence about what you know, I suppose, too.
Because everything keeps confirming it.
That's right.